Hey, what's up, everybody? Man, I'm super excited for the guest that we have today. My good friend, the voice of all things death care, Paul Lemasters. And Paul, I'll let you introduce yourself in a second. But we're coming together today because one of the things that we've learned over the last 2 years is how valuable community is, and being able to tap into associations and have that built-in community. And we're going to talk all things National Concrete Burial Vault Association today. So Paul, give us a quick introduction and we'll talk value.
I'll keep it quick. Paul Lemasters, you're right. Everything I do is related to death care. My background, former life, funeral director, embalmer, and became an attorney, and now work with a lot of different groups. And I'm lucky enough to serve as general counsel for the NCBVA, National Concrete Burial Vault Association.
Love it. All right, well, let's get right into it. So NCBVA has a lot of history that most people aren't really aware of. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so people don't realize that NCBVA is a nonprofit, and it was actually created in 1929. It's been around for decades. Almost 100 years, right? And then it represents the concrete vault manufacturers, and that facet of death care, that's 90% of all the receptacles that are still used for burials at cemeteries. Wow. And you know, they've come to serve as this unified place, the community that you spoke of, to support and work with manufacturers, installers, everyone who's tied to that burial vault, concrete burial vault world.
All right, so beautiful. I have, a background in concrete burial vaults. It's how I got my start into the death care space. So what are some of the, I'm curious of what some of the issues are that are out there that manufacturers need support with.
Yeah, when I first started as counsel for NCBVA, I kind of wondered the same thing. I was like, really, what's out there? And I guess some of it is quiet and silent because it's been resolved, or it stays quiet resolved because they have this group. They continue to watch and wonder issues that affect all vault manufacturers. And so we've done everything from standards, the actual standards on what a vault is, prohibitions that sometimes still come up on installing a vault at a cemetery, crane operator certification, and recently OSHA in the silica standard.
Interesting. Okay, so those lists of standards, let's go down some of those. What are involved with vaults if we're talking about standards, which is important because I don't know that we talk about the standards that are set around vaults very often.
Yeah, so it's one of these things. Without standards, anybody could call anything a vault or a grave liner or whatever. So the NCBVA set of standard definitions for concrete burial vault as well as a grave liner, so that there's a norm across the industry. They also created performance standards and plant certification for all manufacturers, and that way there's some consistency that is an equalizer out there for everybody involved. And they went so far. Now this goes back before my time, but even in the 70s, again, been around for a while. The 70s, the NCBVA worked with the Veterans Affairs to set standards for vaults and settings that would occur in national veteran cemeteries.
Wow. All right. Awesome. Okay. So, I mean, in the previous statement, you mentioned limitations and some prohibitions. What and how has that occurred?
Yeah. So not only has it occurred, actually, this is an ongoing issue. I'll give you an example. Recently, there were a line of plastic vaults that were introduced, and claims were made that this was superior to concrete. Well, what happened in an effort to get objective data to represent the NCBVA to show the difference, they had testing, the NCBVA did, they had testing done through independent labs. That way they could compare the qualities between these two types of vaults. And then this data was used to show the superior quality in concrete that actually came out of it. And then another example of the prohibitions, there are instances now where cemeteries try to ban certain type of cemeteries or certain types of vaults, such as concrete. And when they do that, those are actually restraint of trade lawsuits, and the NCBVA has gotten involved in those to help win these types of prohibitions. And yeah, a lot of this still occurs today.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. So, all right, last one. We'll wrap it up with the home run here. You mentioned regulatory issues with OSHA, crane operator certification, silica standards. You're going to have to break that down into terms that we can understand.
Yeah, so the certified crane operator, that was before me as well, but it's a great thing that they were able to do. So that's a standard process, and it requires anyone who uses a crane, you have to pass a written test and physical exam. This is an OSHA standard. Well, the problem is the cost of that can range up to $3,000. And wow. So the issue was that the training and certification for an operator, crane operator, it doesn't matter if it's 100-story-foot crane that you see in the big city putting up buildings, or a tiny crane that you might use to put a vault in. So vault installations have special equipment, everything from a frame support beam, articulating cranes, and even a vault cart buggy. All of these can be classified as a crane. However, the NCBVA worked with OSHA to get a letter opinion, which basically excluded vault operators from the crane and derrick construction standard. So no certification, a lot of money savings. So that was a big one.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, if you look at a vault operator that may have 20 employees, to pay $3,000 for each employee to get crane certification so they can operate a 100-foot crane, when really it's just a hydraulic hoist, doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. So but we also know that common sense and sometimes government regulations don't always, mix. But that's why we're out there, which is actually, that's the lead into the silica standard. So recently OSHA has really unified and upped the silica standard. And let me I'll throw that out so we know what it is. Silica is a particle in nature. Think sand, concrete. And there's now regulations on how much can be airborne and how you control and maintain it. So NCBA, we are working with members to make sure they're aware of this new standard, how it'll affect them, and hopefully ways to prevent any issues. And needless to say, that is probably one of the biggest future areas. The regulatory scene's never going to go away, but you can absolutely expect that in our world today, that environmental side, especially of OSHA, will just become heightened as we go forward.
Yeah. All right. So I got to ask this because I haven't touched on it, but what does a membership in NCBVA get you?
So it's great. And you let off with it. It's community. It's a common voice. So first of all, it's hard for anyone to keep up with everything that's going on. So NCBVA does that. And then what it does is not only does it communicate it to members, then it listens to that membership. So there's a voice that comes back so we know what we want to do and what we want to expect. Then when it's needed, the NCBVA can take the lead and carry that singular voice of the community to fight what is needed for membership. Because the one thing about anything like these OSHA and government or any type of case or legal matter comes up, when you have one unified large voice is much more powerful than 5, 10 singular voices that may not all be in harmony. So that's what you get.
Love it. Awesome. Well, Paul, thank you so much for breaking that down for us, because I mean, community is important. We need to be involved in community, and we need to understand what's going on in our space. I mean, NCBVA, like you said, covers 90% of the vaults that go on the ground. So it's pretty massive.
Yeah. But hey, I appreciate you taking the time and hopefully allowing this to get out in a little bit of education. So
absolutely. Thank you, sir.
All right. See you. Thanks, Ryan.